Welcome to Truth in History. God's true people, Israel. Revelation of God's plan. Fulfillment of Bible prophecy. Mystery of God shall be finished. Kingdoms become kingdoms of Christ. Truth in History with Charles A. Jennings.
Welcome once again to Truth in History. In this series, I have entitled The Foundations of Social Order. And every nation must have a foundational structure of social order. Otherwise, it's just mayhem and chaos. And in our nation today is mayhem, chaos, and instability. Because we are turning away from our foundations. And in previous program, I mentioned, kind of laid out a short history, how biblical order came west. When the gospel of Jesus Christ was preached by Joseph of Arimathea and his little band that came to Great Britain, Cornwall and Somerset counties, Glastonbury area, so forth. And Jesus himself walked upon England's mountains green. And later on, when the Apostle Paul preached the gospel, he went throughout the Mediterranean world and then took a ship, landed at County Kent, came up the Thames River to London, preached the gospel. Read the account. And later on, it was King Alfred the Great who established a code in his Dooms book and took the code whereby to govern his people, and he took it from 3 other Saxon kingdoms and rulers and added the 10 Commandments, and then added the Sermon on the Mount to include the mercy of Christ, forgiveness and grace, understanding, and Christian principles such as that, and established his Saxon kingdom. Well, you know, later on, in 1215, there was the Magna Carta with King John, and at Runnymede in England. And then the Protestant Reformation, then the Wesleyan Revival. This was establishing a social structure of Christian principles in a nation. And then the Bible was printed in English. 1450 was the Gutenberg Bible. And then Martin Luther's Bible, William Tyndale's Bible, which was utilized, and the translation of the King James Bible. About 90% of it is the Tyndale Bible. And the Bible, the Geneva Bible, in the language of the people, and the people and the nation became a Christian nation. Then the Pilgrims came our way. Thank God for the Pilgrims. They came from central England, Nottingham area. And they established a body politic, not just a church, but a society, a community based upon this Bible and upon the gospel of Jesus Christ. And they wrote the Mayflower Compact. And in 1607, Reverend Robert Hunt dedicated the North American continent to the glory of God and to the propagation of the gospel of Jesus, Jesus the Christ. So we are living under a covenant, or more than a covenant. We're living under at least two covenants. Actually, three covenants. The new covenant itself is the foundation of it. And we have defied those covenants and brought in all types of wickedness. And now we're legalizing wickedness, legalizing false religions. I don't care whether it be Judaism or Islam, or they're not Christian religions. Legalizing same-sex marriage, even making those people a protected class. And now the President has proclaimed the Stonewall Cafe in New York, where the gay riot took place in 1969, he has proclaimed that a national monument. What a disgrace. What a disgrace. But why are we losing our liberties? Because we have defied the first commandment. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. I'd like to read you a quote by Jedediah Morse. He made this in 1799. He made this statement. Now, who was this man? Jedediah Morse was an American educator. He is known as the father of American geography, and he was the father of Samuel F.B. Morse, who invented the telegraph and Morse code. This is what Jedediah Morse said in 1799. I quote, "To the kindly influence of Christianity, we owe that degree of civil freedom and political and social happiness which mankind now enjoys. In proportion as the genuine effects of Christianity are diminished in any nation, either through unbelief or the corruption of its doctrines or the neglect of its institutions, in the same proportion will the people of that nation recede from the blessings of genuine freedom and approximate the miseries of complete despotism. All efforts to destroy the foundations of our holy religion ultimately tend to the subversion also of our political freedom and happiness. Whenever the pillars of Christianity shall be overthrown, our present republican forms of government and all the blessings which flow from them must fall with them." Unquote. Did you understand the impact of which this wise man was saying? All efforts to destroy the foundations of our holy religion ultimately tend to the subversion also of our political freedom and happiness. Truer words have never been spoken. Why can't our leaders see this? In Proverbs chapter 29, verse 2, it says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. When the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Based upon this principle alone, based upon these two foundational statements found in this short verse, explains to us why our nation is so unstable, why we are having so much social, political turmoil in our nation. It says, when the righteous are in authority, when the righteous principles of government, according to the Scriptures, the Ten Commandments, is the rule of the land, then the people can rejoice and prosper. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Why do we have these riots in the streets? Why do we have these large protests and demonstrations? Because the people are mourning. There's something wrong because the wicked are bearing rule and they rule unjustly. If the foundations be destroyed, the prophet said in Isaiah in the book of Isaiah, it says, if the foundations be destroyed, what shall the righteous do? If the foundations are destroyed, what shall the righteous do? That is found in the book of Psalms, not Isaiah. Psalm 11:3, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Our foundational governmental structure of Christianity and morality, of fairness, is being destroyed deliberately by men who want to change our nation into a multicultural, multi-religious, evil society with no restraints, with no moral boundaries. What are the righteous going to do? Let me give you a few thoughts. Biblical Christianity is a declaration of what God has done in history. Now, I gave that brief outline of the Old Testament, of Israel in the Old Testament, and then Israel's migration across the Caucasus Mountains after the Assyrian captivity into northwestern Europe, and the law structure that came about to establish Christendom, or the establishment of the kingdom of Christ in northwestern Europe and the British Isles. That's the work of God. That's not just the work of man. Man was his instruments, but God was the motivator. Biblical Christianity is a declaration of what God has done in history, because God is the maker of history. But the modern church either denies or ignores that history. Because if you can erase the foundation, then you can build your own social structure according to the dictates of humanism. The modern church has separated God from history. Here's another thought. In all pagan political systems, the source of law and the source of morality is the state. You notice the word P-O-L-I-S, police, means empire. It means civil authority. It means man's authority. There were no police under the dictates of the law of Moses. There were the priests, the Levites, who taught the people. But in every pagan society, and our society is turning pagan, who becomes the supreme authority? The government, the state, what we call statism. Here lately, the president, vice president, Supreme Court says homosexuality is now legal and protected, same-sex marriage. Well, what are they going to say next? That's paganism, my friends, because the God of this Bible already made a law against those things. So we have a clash of authority. God's authority and man's authority. They're clashing. And they cannot exist together for long in the same nation. Another thought. Pagan states create gods with a small g. They create their pharaohs, their Caesars, and they, the Caesar, or the dictator, or the pharaoh, they become the law. What we call tyranny and dictatorship. When man becomes the law, whether it be one man like a dictator or a body of men, then we have abuse of power. Number 4, humanism holds to a faith in man, equality and brotherhood. It's based upon equality and brotherhood. That's not taught in Scripture. Humanism is based upon man's own concepts. The law of God is based upon primarily man's relationship with God. Man's relationship with God. And then man's relationship with man. Gnosticism, or the power of knowledge, in essence becomes the glorification of man, self-deification. You notice when a Christian these days quotes the Bible in the public square or on the television, maybe on a talk show or being interviewed by an anchor person, they quote the Bible and say, God said, thou shalt not do so and so. You notice the common response? Oh, well, that's old. That belongs in the Old Testament. That was the bully God of the Hebrews. Or that belongs to the old Victorian age. We're smarter these days. We're high tech. We're more scientific. That's Gnosticism. Gnostic means knowledge. Gnosticism. Man's intelligence becomes the basis of his law, but it turns into self-deification. When you dethrone God, you automatically enthrone man. When man seeks to become his own God, he must first tear down the God of the Bible. That's what Hollywood has done. That's what the movie industry has done. That's what the whole entertainment industry has done and still doing. That is what our government is doing in all three major branches. That's what the social scientists are doing, the psychologist, the psychiatrist, the social change agents, the political correctness crowd. They're deifying man and dethroning God. Now we have reached an age of, quote, Christian secularism. And now they interpret Christianity into humanistic philosophy and license. Now, in the French Revolution, the cry was liberty, equality, and fraternity. And this liberty that they cry about today is not liberty under law. It's license to do whatever they want to do. And the equality, the government does not want equality, even though they use that term. We're all equal. That's equalitarianism. They really don't want that. They use the term, but they want conformity. They want conformity while using the word tolerance. And then fraternity, or the brotherhood of all men, the Bible does not teach that. Racial and religious pluralism. The Bible does not teach that. Now, I realize that this is not politically correct to say these things. And I doubt if any other preacher is saying this over the airwaves. I seriously doubt it, because I can hear some of them make excuses for religious pluralism and say all men worship the same God. It's just that they're taking different routes. I heard one prominent preacher say that on a talk show. He's the most well-known preacher in the world today. He's the man that makes the millions, has the biggest crowds. Said, well, we're all going to the same place, but we just take different routes. And Jesus is one of the routes. What blasphemy! We are going to face the judgment of God. Now, some people are teaching that we're going to have an EMP bomb. That's a possibility. I don't know. I do not know whether someone's going to detonate an EMP bomb over us or not. But I know one thing, that for decades, the rats, the social political rats, have entered the house of America, and they're undermining the foundations. We don't need an EMP bomb to destroy us. We're going to be like the Roman Empire and collapse from within. Sad story. Our nation is not going to last. God said through the prophet Amos to ancient Israel, I will destroy that wicked nation. But then he went on to say a word of hope. I will preserve my people Israel. I will preserve my people. The Lord knows His own, and He will preserve His own. Even if an EMP bomb went off. And in the undermining of our nation, God still has a remnant people. If you have never received a sample copy of our magazine, please write to us, call us, send us an email, check out our website, truthandhistory.org. We'll send you a sample copy. Also, I've been advertising these brochures, 6 different brochures, we all totally free. We'll send them to you, postage paid. The Lord may come in His wrath, but He will remember His mercy. Jesus Christ is coming back to rule and reign on this earth according to Isaiah and Micah. And He's going to establish His kingdom, and He shall rule from sea to sea as prophet, priest, and king. God bless.
For any material offered on this program or to be a part of this ministry, please write or call today. We thank you, and may God bless you for your response to this end time ministry, Truth in History, where the Word of God is not bound.